Hello, everyone. Today we are reading chapter 63. This is our last chapter of Volume C. It is called Economic Disaster. In 1930, Herbert Hoover made this optimistic claim: "We have now passed the worst, and with continued unity of effort shall rapidly recover." 1932, he said, "We shall soon, with the help of God, be within the sight of day when poverty will be banished from the nation." President Hoover seemed to have believed the Depression was over. He said the economy was fundamentally sound, and he said that no one was starving in America. Well, he was wrong about all of those things. All he had to do was look out the window of the White House, and he would have seen hungry people. Thousands of veterans of the First World War were camped in the center of Washington, D.C. They were without jobs. Congress had voted them a bonus for their war service. The bonus was not due to be paid until 1945, but these were difficult times. The men needed the bonus now. So they marched to Washington to see the president. Some brought their families. They built a Hooverville in Washington, D.C. They had no jobs or money, so they slept in tents, in empty buildings, in shacks on public grass. There were said to be 20,000 of them. They were called the Bonus Army. Most carried American flags, some were Medal of Honor winners, some had lost arms or legs in the service. Hoover wouldn't see any of them. The police asked them to leave. They wouldn't go. So President Hoover sent the army. When the former soldiers first saw the army patrols and tanks and the cavalry, they cheered. They thought the troops were parading for them. That was a mistake. The troops came with tear gas, guns, and bayonets. Their leader, General Douglas MacArthur, went farther than the president wished. His troops tore down the shacks. They used tear gas and billy clubs. People were hurt. A baby died. When it was over, Hoover said he saved the country from mob action, but many Americans hung their heads in shame. Hoover never understood. Each night, he and Mrs. Hoover dressed formally for dinner, in tuxedo and long gown, and were served seven-course dinners by a large staff. Soldiers stood at attention around the table. Hoover thought about cutting down on White House expenditures, he said, but then decided that it would be no good for people's morale. Do you think the people agreed? Hoover didn't seem to understand the needs of ordinary people. In 1930, when many Americans were going to bed hungry, he said, "The lesson should be constantly enforced that though the people support the government should not support the people." He also said, "I do not believe that the power and the duty of the general government ought to be extended to the relief of individual suffering." What Hoover meant was that no government money should be spent on relief programs. He thought people could help themselves. If government money was spent, it should go to business. That would strengthen the economy, he said. The business money would trickle down to the people. Many economics believed as he did. Hoover believed in voluntarism. He thought individuals should help each other. It was a good idea, but there was a lot more neighborliness during the Depression. But it wasn't good enough. More needed to be done, much more, or there might be a revolution. Hoover was scared, and so were many other leaders. Democracy and capitalism seemed to be failing. Some people who were considered to be sound thinkers were saying that our system was finished. A new day was dawning. They said an American democracy was out of date. All over the world, the disruptions of war and depression were making people turn to dictators. Mussolini had taken control in Italy, Adolf Hitler was gaining power in Germany, and Joseph Stalin was in control of Soviet Russia. Some people in the United States thought that these leaders were great men. We now know that they were terrible, bloodthirsty tyrants, but we are historians. We have an advantage of hindsight. We know how things came out. People in 1932 didn't know that. Charles Lindbergh, remember him, went to Germany and reported that Hitler was a fine leader. Wisconsin's governor, Philip La Follette, was an admirer of Mussolini. Many intellectuals were fascinated with communism. They weren't the only ones. Senator Theodore Biblio of Mississippi said, "I'm getting a little pink communist myself." The nation's favorite humorist, Will Rogers, said, "Those rascals in Russia have got mighty good ideas. Just think of everybody in the country going to work." Mussolini said, "Democracy is sand driven by the wind." Were the democratic ideals of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and Abraham Lincoln truly out of date?